It is the 31st of January. We have 7 games. We have a season-ending injury to discuss. Dejounte Murray is done for the year. We have some nice performances we had related to the injury a little bit. We'll discuss who are we adding, who are we streaming, all of that sort of stuff. This is the Friday post-game show. Let's go balls deep.
I'm the type to get shit done. You the type to observe. March Madness on my speakers, but today's November 23rd. Got something loud in the blunt, yeah. I don't say what I want, yeah. Probably somewhere sunny getting tan. Foreign women in the sun, yeah. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. Got my brothers with me. Got my brothers with me, and my mama's healthy. That's all that I need.
Welcome to the Balls Deep podcast, brought to you by Fantasy Basketball International. I'm Adam King. Find me on Twitter at AdamKing91 and on Blue Sky at AdamKing91. We are on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere, everywhere you consume fantasy basketball content. And we are part of the Old Man Squad at Old Man Squad on Twitter. All right, so we have 7 games, but we'll start with the injury. Or do we talk about that when we get to the game? No, well, yeah, let's talk about it when we get to the game, actually. So we'll just jump in. First game of the night, Clippers at Charlotte. Look, to their credit, Charlotte were competitive. Clippers get the win 112-104 for the Clippers. I don't know. I mean, there's not really a lot out of the box to talk about here. Derek Jones continues to sort of flirt with 12-team value, 12 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 6 of 9 from the field. Did miss both of his free throws, so that's probably the only negative on what was another solid line. Kawhi Leonard, 28 minutes, 21 points, 9 rebounds, steal and block, 4 threes. So he is rounding into form, and the minutes are ramping up quite nicely. Norm Powell, interviewed after the game, said he thought he deserved to be an all-star. I think he's borderline. I would have been okay if he'd made it. I'm not surprised he didn't. 27 points, 4 assists, 2 steals, so very good line. The free throws, again, these guys that can't hit free throws, it does my head in. Honestly, I don't know how someone like Norm Powell can shoot 3 of 7 from the line. I would shoot better than that. I can almost 100% guarantee it. But anyway, it happens, I guess. And as we thought, not really a lot on the bench here. Mia Coffey had 10 points, but as long as the starting 5 are running and Kawhi Leonard's minutes are trending up, I don't think we need to be paying too much attention to their bench. For Charlotte, it's pretty hard to hold Nick Smith, I think, at this point. I feel like I've got him in one league, but I actually don't have any moves left for the week, so I just have to hold him. They play tomorrow, so if you do have him, you just hold him. But it's looking like Micic might be a slightly better option, and that sort of tells you how bad Nick Smith has been, because Micic is not a good player. Micic had 20 points, though. He had 4 assists. He had a steal. He won't play 31 minutes every night. If Smith is playing better, or KJ Simpson's playing well off the bench, or Seth Curry gets hot, they're going to mix and match here. So Micic is fine. I think Smith is fine. Josh Green, I'm not really interested in him. Okogie came off the bench. The minutes were well down here, although actually I think he suffered an injury, didn't he? I was coaching while a lot of these games were going on, so I had to sort of play catch up. But I'm sure I saw Okogie. Yes, Okogie left with a hamstring injury. So not great. Whenever we see hamstring, that could mean a week. He had a decent line, given only 14 minutes. He had 8 points, 2 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 blocks. So if you streamed him in, you got your defensive stats. He's not good enough to hold here, so if there's any indication that he's going to miss time, we just move on, which probably, I guess, gives Josh Green a bump, but he just really doesn't have a friendly fantasy game at all. Miles Bridges, we know he's going to do a lot. His efficiency is going to be it's not going to be terrible. LaMelo Ball terrible, but it's not going to be great either. And Moussa Diabate, who came off the bench, he had 14 rebounds, 3 steals. So if you streamed him in, you got your rebounds, you got your defensive stats. On to the second game of the night, Dallas at Detroit. Good win for Detroit, back on track, 117 to 102. For Dallas, Klay Thompson, again, he started this game quite well and then just did nothing late. 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal and a block. So solid enough production across the board. I just wish he could do it for a whole game and not one quarter. PJ Washington, obviously playing very well at the moment. Dan Gafford playing very well at the moment. Spencer Dinwiddie not playing very well. Well, not in this one anyway. 5 and 4. He remains a hold. Now, did I see Quentin Grimes actually got injured? Oh, did I see that? Maybe I didn't. Am I imagining that I saw Quentin Grimes got injured? Oh, maybe I am. Maybe he was just really bad. And Dante Exum did return 3 points. We're not adding him, but we talked about the fact that he complicates things, especially once Luka is back, because they then have Dinwiddie, they then have Grimes and Exum and Jaden Hardy when he comes back as well. So, yeah, it's going to get pretty messy there, I think, once Luka's back. For the time being, we just hold Dinwiddie. Najee Marshall bumped up to 22 minutes. It's not quite enough, but if he hits 25, 28, then I think he's worth looking at, even if it's just for streaming purposes. On to Detroit. Tobias Harris, 17 points, 3 blocks, 1 steal. You're not going to get those defensive stats, but the points are encouraging. Yeah, he's probably, I guess he's a hold. Asar Thompson, he pops occasionally. He's pretty consistent in terms of defense. He had 3 blocks and a steal here, but only 23 minutes. Yeah, I think he's expendable. I think if you want to move on from him, you could. Jalen Duren had 16 and 13 with 2 steals. He continues to play very solid. Cade Cunningham, 40 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Doing a ton for this Detroit team at the moment. Tim Hardaway had 2 threes. He is just that 3-point streamer. I would still rather Malik Beasley, only 9 points, 3 threes, but he had been playing better than this. And we got a little bit of Marcus Sasser here, some Paul Reed, but none of these guys excite me to the point where I am running to add them anywhere. All right, Chicago at Toronto. So Lonzo pre-game, there was articles and things that up on Twitter or X talking about Lonzo's minutes restriction being lifted to 28 minutes. And then he came out and played 25, which was what he'd been playing anyway. Didn't have a good game. He had a block of 5 points. So this is absolutely not a 12-team line. I would hold him. If he's going to play 28 minutes, if you added him, if you were holding him, just continue to do so. We know that his points are going to be very up and down. The defense is solid enough and he'll get some assists. So ceiling, pretty capped, but floor should be safe enough. Dosunmu, also not his best game, 6, 4, and 8 with a steal and a block. He is a hold as well. Everyone else was pretty good here. Patrick Williams, he's been better off the bench. 11 points, 9 rebounds, a steal and a block. So borderline. Jalen Smith had 17 and 5 in his 17 minutes. 17 minutes is not enough to be rostered. But again, we're 5 days away from the trade deadline. We stash and we cross our fingers. And Matas Buzelis, who I talked about on Dan's show earlier in the week as one of my post-deadline stash sort of guys, he had 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks in 26 minutes. So the production is good, but the minutes are what we're looking at here. Now, do remember that Levine is out, so that makes a difference. But Buzelis has played good now. A couple of games in a row, he's getting meaningful minutes. Hopefully, the Bulls do get to a point where they start rolling him out for starters minutes. Do we add him? Do we stash him? What are we doing? I'm okay with stashing him. I'm not I just don't think I'm confident enough in Chicago to say that he's a must-add player, but you could consider adding him. I think if the circumstances are right and you are positioned well enough, he is one of those guys I think you could take a bit of a flyer on for a week and see what happens. The Bulls won. Did I say that? The Bulls won this one, 122-106. For the Raptors, Scotty Barnes, 20 points, 10 rebounds, a block. RJ Barrett, pretty similar line, to be honest, 19 and 9. Emmanuel quickly returned. He was on a minutes restriction, so only played 15 minutes. He had 14 points with 2 assists in that time. Shot the ball quite well, hit 3 threes. I'd say they're going to be pretty cautious with him here, at least through the All-Star break. So we're probably looking at no more than, I'd say, I'd be surprised, because what have we got to the All-Star break? Maybe like 5 games. I'd be surprised if he gets to 30 minutes. He might get to 25. 28 would be pushing it as well, I think. Grady Dick returned. He had 13 points in his 29 minutes. 29 minutes for Dick is enough. If you need threes, he did chip in a steal there as well. And Bruce Brown, who had been playing well, and we talked about him as a potential, sort of a stash, but take a flyer on him. He had 0 points in 17 minutes. If you want to hold him, you could for one more game. But you can see here from their rotation, a lot of players got minutes in the sort of mid to high teens through to the low 20s. So, and there was no Kelly Olynyk, who just didn't play. He was cleared to play, he was available, and just didn't play. So that was great, and neither did Chris Boucher. Whether this is sort of a mindset, let's go in a different direction, which honestly, moving away from Chris Boucher is not a bad thing. Even Kelly Olynyk moving away from him because he's not part of their future. They should look to trade him. I think a contender would be more than happy to have Kelly Olynyk on their roster. All right, Denver at Philadelphia. Good win for the Nuggets, 137-134 over the Sixers, who had won a couple of games. For Denver, Jokic back on track here with a near triple-double. Jamal Murray had a good game. Michael Porter, strong offensively, 24 points on 10 of 14 shooting, didn't do a lot else. Aaron Gordon up to 32 minutes, 11, 3 and 3. This is what we're going to get from Gordon, like top 80, top 100 kind of production, nothing more, nothing less. Westbrook, now this injury sort of went under the radar a little bit, so he left the game with a hamstring. Well, they're reporting it as hamstring tightness. With a veteran like him, that's a little bit concerning. Not to the point where I think this is a significant sort of months-long injury like Cam Thomas or anything like that, but missed games maybe. If that is the case, Christian Brown will almost certainly move straight back into the starting lineup. He had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists and a steal. Continues to play better. He's probably rostered everywhere. If he's not, I would take a sort of a speculative jump here and add Christian Brown in case Westbrook does miss even a game or two. If that is the case as well, I think Julian Strawther probably gets a small bump, at least comes into the streaming discussion. He had 18 points in this one. Doesn't do anything else. They're running a really shallow rotation, so someone else will have to come in here. They rent with 8 men tonight. If Westbrook is out, I really don't know who they would bring in here. And this is the issue with Denver. They just have no depth. I guess Saric could come in. They could shuffle some players down. Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. Philadelphia, Tyrese Maxey continues to play very, very well. 42 points, 9 assists, 2 steals. Yabusele had 28 and 7 with 3 steals. Surprising coming up against Denver that he was able to do this, but should have been rostered anyway. Justin Edwards had 9 points with 4 assists, a steal and a block. He is worth holding until Paul George is back. Kelly Oubre just continues quietly a really strong season. 27 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. He's one of those guys you probably got off waivers, and there have been moments through the season where he's probably been a drop or close to. And we've sort of said, oh, look, you probably just want to hold here. Philadelphia aren't a particularly stable roster. And hopefully you did, and hopefully you're reaping the benefits here. Kyle Lowry played 20 minutes for whatever reason. We don't add him. And Ricky Council, 10 points in 15 minutes with 2 steals. Deeper leagues, that's all. All right, Milwaukee and San Antonio. Very nice win for the Spurs here. Quite comfortable. 144 to 118. We'll start with the Bucks. Don't need to talk about Giannis. Don't really need to talk about Dame. Lopez, he's just been so mid lately. 6 points, 5 rebounds, a block. He's a hold, but man, I'd almost argue that you could stream in more value than him at this point. Chris Middleton, we said this morning he would have a really good game or just he would suck. And he had a good game, but it did take 8 of 9 shooting, 21 points, basically did nothing else. So he is becoming just a points and threes kind of a guy off the bench. He's slightly better than a streamer, but not much, I don't think. And we're not looking at anyone else in the Milwaukee system for fantasy purposes. San Antonio, obviously a lot of chatter today around San Antonio and the trade and what's happening, but we deal, as I always say, with what's in front of us. Harrison Barnes, he's been playing quite well lately, so he's probably just a hold if you need points. He doesn't do anything else. Buzeils was a little bit quiet here, 12, 2 and 3 with a block. Chris Paul had 12 and 9 in his 26 minutes. It was Wemby, 30, 14, 6 blocks, some freakish kind of video game moves. And Steph Castle, who has probably been top of the list in terms of talking points with the apparent refusal to include him in trade talks, and is that going to hold up things, and what's going to happen with him if De'Aaron Fox comes back. He doesn't seem to be bothered by all of this talk at all. He had 20 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. So we hold him for now. Jeremy Sohan was very, very poor again. 2 points, 7 rebounds, a block in 22 minutes. It does sound like his minutes are going to go up and he will re-enter the starting lineup, but it doesn't sound like it's coming anytime soon. So if you are holding Sohan, be prepared for some mediocre performances. He'll be better than this, I think. But, it's not going to be that elevation that we had hoped for, which isn't surprising that he was coming off a back injury. Keldon Johnson, who has been front and center in those trade talks, 24 points, nothing else, but he is a good scorer. He can get hot off the bench, and this is why teams would be looking for a player like him. He is a bit of a offensive spark plug kind of player. All right, Boston at New Orleans. We will talk about the Celtics very quickly because there is not much to talk about other than Drew Holiday continuing to be very bad. He, I think, is just a drop at this point. Al Horford played, didn't do anything. I don't think you need to be holding him or Peyton Pritchard or Luke Cornett. They're just guys you probably pick up when the schedule or when injuries or rest work in their favour. Pritchard would be the one I'd be consider holding, but 3 points in 17 minutes. He did have 3 steals, but he's fallen off hard. Now we get to the Pelicans, and this is what we obviously want to talk about. We'll start with the bad news, I suppose. Dejounte Murray suffered a torn Achilles, so he is done for the season. It was pretty obvious. It was one of the more obvious ones, I think, when you were watching it. I missed it as it was happening because I was coaching, and then once I came out or finished the game and checked my phone, I had messages saying, with the Dejounte injury, who are we adding? And okay, that doesn't sound good. And as soon as I watched the first video, it was pretty clear that it was his Achilles. Very, very typical kind of mechanics involved, and they were very quick to determine that this was a torn Achilles. So he is done for the season. I think the Pelicans season is probably done now. They're the third worst record, I think, in the league. Zion is in and out, and who knows what's going on if Ingram ever comes back. So yes, we could see a point where they do go into some sort of a shutdown. What that looks like, I don't know yet. So what do we do with Dejounte? Well, we drop Dejounte if we've got him. Alvarado, based on tonight, Alvarado is the ad. He had 20 points, 6 assists, a steal and a block, 34 minutes. Brandon Boston, I think in deeper leagues, is probably someone we want to consider. 30 minutes, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He held his own early in the season, so I think we're okay to look at him in deeper leagues. The wild card here, I suppose, is Jordan Hawkins, who was out tonight. Now, I've had people asking who starts. Is it Alvarado or is it Hawkins? Honestly, I don't know. This will depend on whether they want to get the ball in CJ's hands a bit more, which I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think CJ is a point guard. I think he should play as he has been playing off ball. He can play as a sort of a secondary facilitator, but I don't think he should be the primary facilitator. So that would tell me that Alvarado probably starts. But in saying that, with their current starting lineup, they don't really have a lot of scoring. And Alvarado, I know he had 20 points in this one, but if you compare him and Hawkins is the guy who can create his own offense more consistently. And we've seen Hawkins start in the past. So I actually don't know what they're going to do here. I think both are worth picking up. And I would sort of lean, if you need points and threes, I would go with Hawkins. If you need steals and assists, I would go with Alvarado. So I think both are worth a look. Trey Murphy, he was locked in as a very good sort of fantasy asset rest of season. This boosts his value as long as they keep him on the court. 40 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. So, yeah, sell high, I suppose. Opportunities like this, you do at least consider a sell high. But unless you can move him for a second rounder, I don't think I'd bother. I think I would just hold him here. Eve Messi had 6 and 13. He's fine as a hold. Zion will presumably come back. He was only out with an illness. This maybe raises some questions rest of season about Zion. If he gets any sort of an injury, do they just shut him down? I'm not sure. We will find out in due time. And the final game of the night, Phoenix comfortable winners over the Warriors, 130 to 105. We'll talk about the Suns very quickly. Nick Richards, 14 and 16 with 2 blocks. He tends to do this. He's very good against, poor teams, but in favourable matchups, which this was. We talked about this pre-game, the fact that he was coming up against a Golden State team that doesn't really have a centre, not a reliable one. So if Phoenix were controlling the game, which they were, Nick Richards was probably going to have a good game, which he did. Only 24 minutes, though. That's not ideal. He could very well come out in the next game and play 22 minutes and have 6 points and 6 rebounds. So it is going to be up and down. I think he is a hold, but he is a back-end, low sort of double-double guy with some blocking upside. Tyus Jones had 6 assists. I've talked about him as well being potentially a drop. If you don't need assists, he's absolutely a drop. Ryan Dunn, we're not rostering him. We are... of their bench guy, Bradley Beal, look, he's must roster. He's actually looked pretty good in the last little bit, and I'm wondering whether he's settling into this role and the Suns are playing quite well, whether he just sticks it out here and they see what they can do with this. Obviously they're still in trade talks and things like that, but we'll see what happens. Royce O'Neal had 24 minutes. He hasn't really been doing Royce O'Neal things. He's okay, I think, to stream in, but I wouldn't hold him more than 1 or 2 games. And Grayson Allen, if you need threes, he is fine. On to Golden State. I'm actually worried about the Warriors here. No one really talks about it. But let me just pull up the Western Conference standings. So they're currently last in their division. Not by much. It's pretty close. But what are they at 500? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, does this tell me? Oh, yeah. This is a better way of doing it. So they are currently in the 11th spot. So they are half a game behind Sacramento, who are 10th. But Spurs are coming. Apparently the Blazers are coming. And the Warriors just don't look very good. They just, I don't know. I know they're deep and they're more than willing to run a deep rotation. But I'm not saying Steph Curry is washed. He is absolutely not washed. But the poor games or the subpar games, let's say subpar, they're happening more frequently. And he doesn't have the supporting cast to be able to do that anymore. And they were never really in this game at all against the Phoenix side that didn't play that well. They did enough. So I really don't know what the Warriors are going to do here. I absolutely don't think they can challenge for a title with this roster. And I've said if they want to make the most of what of the window that's left when it comes to Steph Curry, which he's getting smaller. I think it's probably only 1 to 2 years now. They're going to need to drastically improve this roster. To me, it means moving on from Draymond Green because he probably has some trade value. I mean, Wiggins, I guess. I just don't know what they're going to do. They're just in that sort of... Obviously, they had all that success, 5-10 years ago, whenever that was. And now they're sort of just coming off the other side of that hill with not much momentum or pieces or anything to be able to turn this around quickly. But I think that's what they want to do, given that, as we've said, Steph is nearing the end of his career. Steph did have 14 3-3 with 2 blocks, didn't shoot the ball well. Buddy Hield, 13 points with 3 threes. It's all right, but 19 minutes. It was Moses Moody in this one who had 17. Brandon Pajemski had 14. But again, look at the box score there. All of the bench basically playing 20 minutes. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no loyalty to any one player over another. Quinton Post started and had 19 minutes. Kevon Looney had 15. Trace Jackson-Davis was back in the rotation but played 9 minutes. I've said this, I'm just avoiding the Warriors, I think. Wiggins, Curry, outside of them two, I'm not really trusting anyone. Pajemski is probably the one. Schroeder had 4 steals and a block with 5 assists, but he also had 5 points on 2 of 8 shooting. So, yeah, it's not looking great in Golden State. Let's put it that way. All right, let's get to some questions. Undoubtedly going to be some questions regarding Alvarado and the Pelicans. And the first question from Mondes. Who would I prefer in a 12-team rest of season league, Collier or Alvarado, especially assists and steals department? Alvarado, I think I would go. Collier, I've talked about him as a good defender, but it's not translating yet to defensive stats. He gets deflections and he's in there, but Alvarado typically translates a little bit better. So I think I'd go Alvarado there, and I just think he's a little more polished offensively. I'm not saying he's a good offensive player, but I think he's a little more polished at this point in his career. Hinny Minnie, thanks for remembering me. Love your videos. Have been pretty busy. Yes, busy. Life gets busy, doesn't it? It's unfortunate. But would I trade Tyus Jones and Tari Eason for Chris Paul? Paul's a tricky one because if he's going to be traded, we just don't know what his role looks like. To me, look, I think that's fine. I think that's fine because Tyus Jones is very borderline in terms of being a rosterable player anyway. So this is almost just Tari Eason for Chris Paul, which I think is fine. So I'd be okay doing that. D-Dog Tan. Do I drop Asar or Misi? I'd probably only hold Misi if you need blocks. He's not going to do enough. It's a tough one given the injury today to Dejounte, because their trajectory, while it wasn't necessarily an upwards trajectory, there wasn't really an indication yet that they were wanting to just pack this in and give it up. That may happen now, which could, I'm not saying it unlocks Misi, but it could ensure him as a 30-minute player rest of season. And if it means Zion's not there, that helps Misi. Where I think Asar is just Asar. He'll start, his minutes will be sort of 20 through to 25. He gets you some defensive stuff. So Asar is probably safer. We know exactly what we're going to get. I don't think it changes. Misi, if you can be a little risky, then I'd probably go with him, just because his role could sort of stay where it is or increase. He has the potential to increase. I don't think Asar does. Ryan Porteous, sitting top of the table at 13-0. Well, that's good. In a points league, should I drop Kuzma to stash Jalen Smith in a points league? Look, my gut is yes, absolutely do that. If you're sitting first, I don't think you're sitting first because of Kuzma. He hasn't really played. He's been bad. So you're obviously coming first, basically with Kuzma just taking up space. I would absolutely look at Jalen Smith in that situation. Steve says, someone streamed Alvarado today. Why are some people rewarded for nothing? Yeah, look, it's an element of luck in fantasy. It is frustrating sometimes. I didn't stream Alvarado. I actually looked at him today, and I went with someone else. I can't think who it was. I might have gone with Najee Marshall, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't get him. I'm going to try and get him tonight. In my Yahoo leagues, you can't actually add players on the day they're playing. You have to wait for it to flick over, which for me is 7 p.m. tonight. So I'm going to just hang around on waivers at 7 o'clock, and hopefully maybe I can just get Alvarado or Hawkins in one league, and I'll see what happens. JP Atienza, who would I drop to add Buzelis and activate IQ? Krejci, Christie, Klingon, or Jalen Smith? Klingon and Smith are your stashes. Let's have a look at the... where can I look at that? Hang on, I'm just having a look at the schedule. So let's start with... Oh, that's next week. So... Toronto play Tuesday, so they probably play Sunday, do they? They probably do. And they have a back-to-back. I can almost guarantee that Emmanuel Quickly will not play in that back-to-back. And I guess where I'm going with this is, do you need to activate IQ? Because he played 15 minutes today. He will probably play 15 minutes in the next game. Let me just have a look at... games starting Saturday and have a look at Toronto. They play the Clippers on Sunday. They then play the Knicks Tuesday and the Grizzlies Wednesday. So, yes, I almost guarantee he will not play in both of those back-to-backs. So you get one more game of him against the Clippers where he might play 18 minutes, maybe. Are you better off dropping someone to activate him for that, or do you just leave him in your IR spot? Probably depends on standings and situation. I'd consider that. And Buzelis, well, he's sort of a stash. So I'd probably say, will you want to drop a stash to add a stash? Klingon is the one that stands out to me there, just because his value is blocks and rebounds. That's it. Are they categories that you need? If you don't, then I'd be okay not stashing Klingon. Jalen Smith will get you some threes. He'll get you some rebounds. He's probably better offensively, a little more well-rounded at this point. Krejci, I'm still holding Krejci. I know he didn't look great in that last game. I'm interested to see whether that was a a matchup against Cleveland decision, or are they just going with if Krejci's going to come off the bench and play 20 to 22 minutes, you can drop him. Christie, I would probably be holding just at least until Anthony Davis is back. Ernest, where do I see Alvarado's value rest of season? Trying to decide whether to drop him. Where do I see him? Well, I mean, he's one of those players that his value is probably going to be slightly overstated because he is very good at steals. So rank will not necessarily tell the whole story here. I think he's probably a top 80 player rest of season. 11 points, 12 points, maybe 6 assists and close to 2 steals. And that's your value, assists and steals. He won't be a high-volume scorer. The efficiency is very up and down. We've seen games where he just goes off and then other games where he can't shoot to save himself. So that'll be up and down. But the assists will be there. The steals will be there. So, yeah, I think probably top 80. If we want to look at a number, that's where I'd be sort of positioning him. But it is, one of those situations where I think, where I think that you don't necessarily need to have him. Depends on what stats you need. Brian Chang, wondering why I'm recommending Buzelis and what are my thoughts on picking up to stash Keon Ellis. Buzelis, I just like. I just like his game. I think there's a lot that we haven't seen from him. The Bulls just really haven't given him an opportunity to do anything, which is a very Bulls thing to do. But I just think he has quite a fantasy-friendly game. He's a good shot blocker. He's very athletic. He can space the floor a little bit. He can run, facilitate. There's not a massive sort of upside there in terms of ball handling and facilitating. But I think I like the blocks upside from a guard. I'm sure he's guard. Well, maybe he's not guard eligible. Check your league, but he's sort of a guard forward hybrid kind of guy. The last 2 games, he's had 12 points in each of them. 7 rebounds, 3 blocks today, 4 rebounds, 1 block. He's pretty efficient, so he generally shoots, sort of gives you that 500 range. Pretty good from the free throw line. I just think common sense would be that the Bulls at some point down the stretch will give him 30 plus minutes a night. Now, this is dependent on the Bulls not hunting mediocrity as they always do. So it is a risky one, but I just like his game. And what are my thoughts on Keon Ellis? Look, I'm okay stashing him. We've got 5 days or whatever it is. It's a pretty precarious situation because if Fox goes, then obviously Ellis would be the guy that would step in, but that's assuming that they don't get a guard back. And if someone comes back, if it's Chris Paul, if it's Bradley Beal, if it's basically anyone significant comes back in the trade, they're not bringing them back to move them to the bench. So I think unless it's pieces that come back or draft picks, that sort of thing, then Keon Ellis could just stay in his same role. But that might not happen. So, yes, if you want to take a fly, if you can, then I think that's okay. JJ Styles, what are my thoughts on Castle? Who do I prefer between him and Risa Shea rest of season? It's pretty close, I think. I'd probably go with... I know Risa Shea was very good in that last game, but he's very one-dimensional. He's basically points only. Castle has demonstrated that he can do more, but I talked about earlier, what is this trade? What's going to end up for him with this trade? Is he going to play 28 minutes a night? Is he going to go back to 19 minutes a night? Risa Shea is going to play pretty good minutes rest of season because Jalen Johnson is gone. So I like Risa Shea if you just want a guy you can throw in and not expect very much. But if you are looking for a bit of upside, I would probably go with Castle. All right. Cookie Monster dropped Westbrook, picked up Alvarado. Yeah, I think that's okay, especially with this Westbrook injury. Like I said, if this is a week out, you just drop him. And Alvarado, look, he's similar, I suppose, to Westbrook. He's probably has slightly more defensive upside, not quite as much assists. But I could see his value being comparable to Westbrook when all is said and done. Another Risa Shea question from Brian. Thoughts on stash and keeping? Yeah, like I said, I think he will just be one of those plug and play kind of guys who you have on your roster. A little bit like a Christian Brown. He'll just sort of chip away there at top 120 to he'll put it together a week of top 100 value, and then he might be top 160 the next week. But he'll have these games where he pops off for 24 points and 5 threes, and you go, "Ooh, I'm glad I'm holding him." So I think he's okay. What else have we got? Is Lonzo Ball an ad with the news? Yeah, I think he is. He wasn't very good today. But if he's going to, he's been sort of a rosterable player in 25 minutes. So if he does get up to 28, then I think he's okay to hold. Trey Murphy, he's ranked top 30 on BBM now. Yeah, he would be. Sell or hold. Look, shutdown risk, look, I guess. But yes, Josh and I are both a little bit of the opinion that, look, if it happens, it happens. The only teams I think that it's probably guaranteed to happen based on what we've seen are Utah and, well, I thought Portland, but they're sort of winning. So we'll see with them. I think the Wizards are probably going to go down that path, although they're so bad anyway that it doesn't matter. Utah are probably the one team that are obviously doing it at this point. Maybe we get to a point where some other teams are doing it, but that might be March. Normally, we're not talking about these shutdowns and stuff until February or March. It's only been this season with the way that Utah are they're obviously just shutting it down. Like they're not even lying about it anymore. So, I'd hold him. Like I said, if you could move him for a second rounder, I probably would, but I don't think you're getting one back. Michael Mendes, worth dropping Io and Dinwiddie to pick up Alvarado and activate quickly. I'd have Alvarado over Io, I think, yes. And, that quickly question, do you need to activate him given that his minutes are still low and he'll probably miss one of the back-to-backs early next week? That's your decision. But Dinwiddie, look, again, he hasn't been tremendous and Luka is getting closer. So I'm not against that. Oh, yeah, I do want to check that. Giddy played, what do we got? Giddy played 30 minutes. Do they push him out of the rotation? Look, they could. I think they'll try to keep him in there. He's having a pretty good season. They signed him. Like they moved to get him. So I think they do want to see what he looks like. And especially if Levine moves, if they do end up moving Levine, Vooch, they want to try and get a look at what Giddy and Buzelis and these guys look like alongside each other. So I think he's probably relatively safe. Chris says, now this is the microphone question. Well, not a question. Mike has been live in this stream. Will start soon. Yeah, see, my mic is saying that it's not. It's I'm hitting the mute. Hang on. I'm going to hit mute now, and if you can't hear me when I hit it, just pop in the comments that you can't hear me, just so I know that it's working. Okay, pressing now. All right, let me know. I'll talk for 10 seconds, and we'll see if anyone drops anything in the comments. Can you hear me? Maybe. I don't know. Okay, and I'm back on now. Did that mute? Someone just tell me if that muted. Because my microphone said it was muted, and that's what I'm doing. I haven't changed anything that I'm doing. So I don't know whether it's the microphone that's playing up. Mute didn't work. Okay, so that's why. All right. You can hear me now, yes. But did I go? I didn't mute at all there. That's sort of what I'm saying for about 10 seconds. If there was no mute, then that's good to know mute is not working. All right. I'll just have to be quiet. I guess I don't know. All right, I'll look into that. Thank you. All right, fun fact about the Warriors. Steph leads the league in free throw percentage. Okay. Meanwhile, the team as a whole is dead last. That is not really surprising. But, yeah, look, I mean, you look at the guys on their team, yeah, they don't have a lot of good free throw shooters. I mean, even Dennis Schroeder, who you would consider a good free throw, he was 0 of 2 tonight. Moses Moody was 3 of 5. Wiggins is not an elite free throw shooter. Yeah, it's not surprising. It just sort of emphasizes, I think, what I said about the Warriors there. I just don't think their roster is great. Okay, Ryan with another one. Would I accept Zoe for Goga in a 12-team points league? So would I accept Zoe? So would you trade I'm assuming this is Lonzo for Goga in a 12-team points league? Who would I rather there? I might rather Goga in that one. I think it's fair. I don't think it's an unfair trade, especially with the uncertainty around Goga at the moment. So I think that's okay. Jose or Hawkins? Yeah, look, I said when we broke down the game here, Alvarado if you need assists and steals, Hawkins if you need points and threes. Joseph Kim, I feel like I'm always dropping players at the worst time. Monk earlier in the season, Okongwu earlier, Harris here. How do you stop making the same mistake? I mean, all I could say is patience, I suppose. I try to be as patient as I can with players. It's pretty rare that I will just say, yep, he's a drop. When it comes to a few of these players, like I'm very close on Tobias Harris, but I don't think I've actually said he's a drop. I think you could consider dropping him. It also depends who you're picking up. You may have dropped Harris, but who did you pick up instead? Maybe it was someone who has played well. It happens. Yeah, look, the Okongwu one, I don't blame you. Monk. Yeah, Monk's probably a questionable one, but Harris and Okongwu, like I think the process at which you came to those decisions is probably fair enough. Ernest, more on the Alvarado question. Would I drop Keontae or Sharp for Alvarado? Punting field goal percentage build, or is it one of those what do you need situations? Would I drop those guys? Again, I think this is a situation where probably if you look at rank at the end of the season, Alvarado could finish above both of those guys, but that's because he might get 2 steals a game. Both should score more than Alvarado. Both will probably hit more threes than Alvarado. Assists might be comparable in terms of Keontae. Sharp is really just going to be points and threes, but he could be 20 plus points once we get to February or March. And finding a 20-point scorer consistently is pretty tough. So, look, I think I'd consider it if it fits your build and that sort of thing. So I would probably, I guess if you want to compare and go like for like, I think Keontae and Alvarado are probably slightly more comparable, where Sharp, as I said, he could be 22 points a game for a month. Keontae, he could be 16 points. But that will depend, again, as well on Markkanen, John Collins, Colin Sexton, what happens with those guys. If they all go, then Keontae could be a 20-point scorer. I don't think Alvarado is ever going to be a 20-point scorer. So that would be the downside there. He won't score as much, but he should get you more steals than both of those guys. What do we got? Almost there. Hinny Mini, Pacers did not play today. You are correct. What do I think of Nembhard? I'm not very high on Nembhard. I don't think he is a guy that you have to be rostering. I think he's back end Pacers are going to be one of those teams, I think, that don't shut down. They're just going to want to run it out. Nembhard is, as long as Halliburton's healthy, I think he's probably top 150. So he's fine if you want to roster him, but if you move on from him, I don't think you're going to regret it necessarily. Lone Des, who are we streaming for tomorrow? Christie or Ellis? Need free throw percentage and steals. I would... Ooh. Maybe it's Christie. Like I said, he just doesn't translate that well in terms of steals yet. Ellis does. So if you need the steals, I'd probably go Ellis slightly. Who do they play? Let's have a look. Sacramento play Oklahoma City, so that's not a favourable game. Utah play Orlando, which is... Orlando haven't been playing very well. Utah are at home as well. The injury report is pretty clean, I think, tomorrow. So we're assuming that all of the guards are playing against them. Yeah, maybe it's Collier. Just because I think he might play 30 minutes, Ellis probably plays 20. That's the difference, I think. So Joseph said, heard Jose tweaked his foot tonight. I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything. Could be true. But yes, I haven't seen anything. I haven't been looking either, though, to be fair. Who do I enjoy co-host with more, Josh or Dan? They're very different. Obviously, Josh being an Aussie, we can chat Aussie stuff together. But I've probably done more with Dan and obviously work a bit closer with him because we do shows together regularly. Josh, I mean, both of those guys are top of the tree, so I'm just honoured to be on a show with either of them, to be honest. I don't think there's a favourite. I think they're both quite different, and I think I have good rapport with both. So it's Christie. It's Christie. They play the Knicks tomorrow. What is that in relation to? Christie Oil. I was looking at Collier. So did I say Collier? Yeah, that's my bad. Sorry. Christie or Ellis, free throws and steals. Okay. Again, it might be Christie, just because I think 30 minutes is almost guaranteed for him, especially with AD out. I think I'd probably go Christie. Yeah, I did say Collier. I don't know why I said Collier. It's been a long show, hasn't it? That's probably a signal that we need to end this thing. I need to go and play with my microphone and figure out why the mute button doesn't work. I don't know. Maybe I just need to unplug it when it's doing that. I don't know. Or maybe I can mute it on here. Maybe that's a way to do it. I'll just hit the mute button. Actually, let's do a little 5-second. I'm going to hit mute on the screen rather than on my actual microphone. Tell me if it is working. I'll hit it now. All right, I'm muted now. So did I go silent there for about 5 seconds? Someone, surely at least one person is still watching along and can tell me whether that worked. And then I'll go. And then I know I don't need to get a new microphone. Yes. Okay. All right, that mute works. All right, well, we'll have to do it on the screen and my silly microphone, the mute button. Maybe I've pressed it too much. I don't know. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Now, there will be a little bonus show tonight. I will be hosting a show with DMAC, NBA Fantasy Bible, in about 3 hours. We're just going to go through some pre-trade deadline rumors, the injury today. We'll talk about the Pelicans. We'll take some questions. So sort of a Q&A, pre-deadline discussion. Let's just do a show for the hell of it, kind of a theme. So there's no agenda. I'll probably go for about 40 minutes. Won't be too long. So if you're around and you want to come and chat to DMAC, or myself, we will be on in basically exactly 3 hours from now. So come and check that one out. I will then be back for a pre-game show tomorrow. As always, thanks for listening and downloading and doing everything that keeps us going. I'm Adam King. This has been the Balls Deep post-game show. Until next time, catch ya.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our website.